They said her voice was too big for a body that small. They said a poor 10-year-old girl from the slums of Manila could never sound like a global superstar. But the moment this barefoot child opened her mouth on America's Got Talent 2025, the entire room froze, the judges stood in shock, and millions watching across the United States felt something they would never forget. Before this story breaks your heart and lifts your soul, hit the subscribe button, because stories like this remind us why dreams still matter. In the crowded backstreets of Tondo, Manila, where narrow alleys twist between rusted tin roofs and the air smells of fried bananas, diesel smoke, and rain-soaked concrete, lived a girl named Althea Cruz. She was 10 years old, thin as a reed, with hair often tied using a broken rubber band and shoes that were usually borrowed, sometimes missing, and often unnecessary because she preferred to walk barefoot. Her home was a single-room shack built from plywood scraps, old election posters, and hope that refused to die. Althea's mother, Maribel, sold vegetables from a wooden cart at dawn. Her father had been a jeepney driver until a sudden illness took him away 2 years earlier. Since then, life had become a daily battle with hunger, rent, and fear. But every evening, when the sun melted into the polluted horizon and radios crackled with old pop songs, something magical happened in that small shack. Althea sang. She did not sing nursery rhymes. She did not sing softly. She sang with power that shook walls made of weak wood and stronger dreams. Her favorite songs were not local ballads, but international hits she heard from neighbors' phones and broken televisions. One voice captured her heart more than any other. Lady Gaga. Althea did not understand English perfectly, but she understood emotion. She understood pain, strength, rebellion, and survival. When she sang those songs, she was no longer poor. She was no longer small. She became something fierce and unstoppable. Neighbors began to notice. At first, they laughed. Then they stopped laughing. Then they started gathering outside her door. Some nights, strangers would stand quietly in the alley, listening to a 10-year-old girl belt notes that adults struggled to reach. Someone recorded a video on a cracked phone and posted it online with shaky hands and disbelief. The caption simply said, "Poor girl from Manila sings like Lady Gaga." The video traveled faster than anyone expected. It crossed oceans, screens, and time zones. Within weeks, it landed on the desk of a talent scout connected to America's Got Talent 2025. When the email arrived, Maribel thought it was a scam. She had never owned a passport. Althea had never been on a plane. America was something seen in movies, not something meant for children who slept beside leaky roofs. But the message was real. They wanted Althea to audition. The journey to the United States was terrifying. It required documents they did not have, money they did not own, and courage they were not sure they could find. A local charity stepped in. Neighbors donated coins. Someone even sold their old motorcycle. When Althea boarded the plane, she pressed her face against the window and whispered a promise to her father's memory. "I will sing so loud that you hear me." Los Angeles felt like another planet. The lights were brighter than Manila nights, the buildings taller than her imagination. Backstage at AGT, Althea sat quietly, clutching her mother's hand. Other contestants warmed up with trained voices and confident smiles. Althea wore a simple dress borrowed from a Filipino church group. Her shoes were new, but her hands trembled inside them. A producer asked her how she felt. Althea smiled shyly and said she was scared. When asked why she chose a Lady Gaga song, she replied with honesty that silenced the room. "Because Lady Gaga sings like she is not afraid to be herself, and I want to be brave too." When Althea walked onto the AGT stage, the audience saw a tiny girl under massive lights. The judges smiled politely. Simon Cowell leaned back, arms crossed, expecting another sweet child performance. He asked her name, asked her age, asked where she was from. "Manila, Philippines," she said. The crowd applauded politely. Simon raised an eyebrow. "What will you be singing?" Althea took a deep breath. "A Lady Gaga song." There was a pause, a ripple of curiosity, a hint of doubt. Then the music started. From the first note, everything changed. The voice that came out of Althea was not small. It was raw, controlled, emotional, and explosive. It carried pain older than her years and strength forged in poverty. She did not copy Lady Gaga. She channeled the soul behind the sound. Her voice cracked at the perfect moments. Her high notes soared like defiance. Her low notes carried grief and fire. The audience stood without realizing it. Judges looked at each other in disbelief. Simon Cowell slowly leaned forward, his face unreadable. Halfway through the song, a woman in the crowd began to cry. Then another. Then hundreds. But the biggest twist came near the end. Althea suddenly stopped singing. The music faded. The room froze. For a second, everyone thought she had forgotten the lyrics. Instead, she spoke. "This song is for my father, who never heard me sing on a big stage." Then she finished the final note with a power that shook the theater. Silence. Then an explosion. The crowd roared. Judges jumped to their feet. Simon Cowell stood last, but when he did, his eyes were wet. He walked to the microphone and said something no one expected. "I have heard thousands of singers. But I will remember you forever." The golden buzzer slammed. Gold confetti rained down on a girl who once slept hungry in Manila. Althea fell to her knees, crying, laughing, shaking. Her mother collapsed behind the stage, overwhelmed by disbelief and gratitude. In that moment, the world saw more than talent. They saw resilience. But the story did not end there. In the weeks that followed, Althea faced something harder than poverty. Pressure. Online criticism. People accusing her of being coached, fake, or too young for such songs. One night, she told her mother she wanted to quit. Maribel hugged her and said something that became the heart of the story. "We did not come this far to be quiet." In the semi-finals, Althea changed the song. She sang an original version inspired by Lady Gaga's style but rooted in her own life. The judges listened in silence. The audience voted in record numbers. She made it to the finals. On finale night, Althea wore a dress inspired by the Philippine flag. She sang with confidence, not fear. Whether she won or not, she had already changed her life. When the season ended, Althea did not just gain fame. She gained a scholarship, a recording opportunity, and something priceless. A future. Back in Manila, children gathered around screens, believing for the first time that dreams could escape the alleys. And somewhere beyond the lights, a father listened.